Hi everyone. Welcome to our tutorial on scholarly sources. As a college student, you probably have already heard or will hear the term scholarly sources, specifically when you are assigned a research paper and are required to use outside sources to support your topic. Your professors aren't looking for just any source you can find off the internet. They're looking for reliable, authoritative sources. So let's take a closer look at scholarly sources. This chart showcases 5 key elements of information sources and how scholarly sources meet them compared to a popular source. First, we have the author, who will be an expert or professional in the field they are writing about. Next, we have peer review. Scholarly sources go through a peer review process, which means a panel of experts in the field review the work for traits like accuracy, bias, and support before it's approved for publication. Now we move on to content. In a scholarly article, you will notice that the content is more analytical and digs deeper into its subject instead of just summarizing information. The author may even present new evidence and will always provide support for their argument. Our fourth component is language. You'll notice more professional jargon in scholarly articles, the technical words associated with the field, such as adenocarcinoma instead of lung cancer. And lastly, references. If you've read a scholarly article, you may have noticed a long list of other articles at the end of the paper. These are references, all of the other works the author consulted to support their paper. Now let's quickly compare these 5 elements in a popular source. The author will typically be a journalist or perhaps a blogger, and not necessarily an expert in the field. There's no peer review process, and the content usually consists of a summary or restatement of information. These articles use more common language to make the article accessible to the general public. And lastly, while the author may have interviewed someone or done some research prior to writing their article, they will not typically list their sources they consulted to write the article, so you can't be sure where they obtained their information from. An example of a popular source is Time magazine. And these aren't bad sources of information necessarily, they're just not as reliable as scholarly sources. If you're going to use an information source to support your paper, why not use a source that will accurately and authoritatively strengthen your argument? So let's look at 2 information sources on the same topic to further illustrate the differences between scholarly and popular sources, and see which one would you choose. First, we have a WebMD entry about vitamin D and its side effects. And then we have a journal article about vitamin D. You don't have to look very far to see that one of these is going to be a more reliable, accurate source. The authors here are medical doctors. They've published this in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. And if we scroll down just a little bit, we can see that their article talks about a study they performed in order to come to their conclusions about vitamin D and arterial stiffness. If we go back to the WebMD entry for a moment, under side effects, WebMD briefly mentions hardening of the arteries. So this is an easy choice. The journal article, a scholarly source, is the best choice for your college research paper. You should use scholarly sources for your papers because of all the characteristics we discussed in the chart, and because your professors will require them. You need these sources to get an A. Plus, you're showing your professors that you know how to evaluate information and then use that information to make a decision or to support your point of view. One other thing to consider is that learning how to differentiate between information sources and evaluate them will help you in all aspects of life. This is a critical thinking skill, and you need critical thinking and problem-solving skills to succeed in the workforce. Let's say, for example, you'd like to propose a new plan for IT disaster recovery to your boss. He or she will likely not accept your plan if you hand them a blurb from an IT blog. However, if you show them a few articles from the Information Management and Computer Security Journal, that show study results, displaying your proposed method as working better than others, they might be more willing to listen, and they'll be impressed with your work. For the purposes of your coursework here, though, the good news is you don't have to go crazy trying to find scholarly sources. We have a huge selection of them in our databases, which you can learn more about in our database searching tutorial. Remember, you can always ask your librarian if a source is appropriate to use for your paper. We're happy to help.